When he came, the Messiah made the promise of a kingdom, a new world, rich, peaceful, unpolluted, joyful for all. What leads to that kingdom? What precedes its arrival? Do you want to be part of it? Are you ready for the promise?
Mein guten Tag. Hello, dear friend. Good morning. Hope you had a good week, that everything went well for you last week, that you were blessed, and if not, I hope that Yahweh will be there for you and help you in whatever problem you can have. Okay. So, last week I introduced 2 weeks ago I introduced the topic about the patriarchs, the book of Genesis, and especially the patriarchs, saying that every patriarchs have a role to play. Beside their own stories as individuals, they also play a role. It's like a movie theater, like a screenplay in front of us when you read the scriptures. And through the patriarch story, Yahweh show us and tell us the plan of salvation. If you remember, and that was the topic of last week, Adam represent creation of man, but also the fall of man. And since Adam sinned, all mankind is under the curse of Adam. That curse, that specific curse of death. And before I jump in the continuation with Noah, I received an interesting question last week, and I really promise that I will answer that one, which was, if I remember the question, because I don't have it here, but by memory it was, does that curse go also on the children and the grandchildren, or the descendants of people? Well, and I answered that yes, biblically it's clear that yes, of course, sadly, it's not our fault, the children and the grandchildren of Adam, but because of Adam, his curse, the curse of death, I want to be precise of what I'm speaking about here, goes to all mankind since then, until the end. And I would like to develop that a little bit, and I would like to jump in Romans, the book of Romans, chapter 5. And that's where Paul developed the idea a little bit more about that specific topic. And just pay attention to the word he used. Okay, so it's Romans chapter 5, verse 12 to 15 first. So Romans chapter 5, verse 12 to 15, it says this: For this reason, even as through one man sin entered into the world. So we know that sin came into the world because of one man, Adam in this case. And death through sin. So because of sin, death came in also. So man introduced sin, and sin introduced death. So you cannot avoid, if you have sin, you have death. They are bound to each other. And thus death spread to all men, because all sin. It can be strange to say that for children, but it's not their fault. We were all children also. But the fact is, death, since Adam is there. So let's continue. For until the Torah, written Torah here in the context, sin was in the world. But sin is not reckoned when there is no Torah. But death reigned from Adam until Moshe, even over those who have not sinned according to the likeness of the transgression of Adam, who is a type of him who was to come. But the favorable gift is not like the trespass, for if by one man trespass many died, much more the favor of Yahweh and the gift in favor of the one man, Yahshua HaMashiach, overflowed to many. So here, Paul is also showing the answer to that, the answer of Yahweh to that problem. But the point is, from Adam to Moshe, there was no written Torah. But that doesn't mean that the Torah did not exist. It was not just written. And that's his point. The fact that people died from Adam to Moshe demonstrates that the Torah was already there. Because if there is no Torah, there cannot be sin. Why? Because sin is defined by the law, by the Torah. Okay, so it is the instruction of Yahweh which defines what is good and what is bad. If that doesn't exist, you cannot have sin by definition, because there is no definition of sin. And that's the whole point of Paul that he makes to the Roman. And by the way, remember, he's speaking to the Roman, he's speaking to Gentiles here, not to Hebrews. The Hebrews understand that. He's trying to develop the idea to Gentiles. And he tried to make it as clear as he can, because he's addressing a people who doesn't have the same background. Paul was a Jew, a Benjamite, to be more precise, an Hebrew. So his way of thinking was not the way of thinking of the Romans. The Romans were Greco-Latin thinkers, so they didn't think the same way. So he had to make the point to explain what was it all about the Torah. But Yahweh never no, not Yahweh. Paul never done away with the law. He just expounded to the Romans that the Torah, although it was not written, already exists from Adam to Moshe. Moshe was the one writing down the Torah. But you can only write down something which already exists by definition. You just write it down. Why? To keep it. So now you can spread it. You don't need just to rely on your brain. You can rely on something written down that you can examine by yourself. Okay, so that was the whole point of Paul here. Just to demonstrate that from Adam to Moshe, the Torah was already in full force. And the proof of that is that sin was there. And sin is not accounted if there is no law. Okay? Let's go now to verse 18 to 19. So then, as through one trespass there resulted condemnation to all men. I will repeat that one. So then, as through one trespass there resulted condemnation to all men. So the condemnation is upon all of us. So also through one righteous act there resulted righteous declaring of life to all men. So because of Adam, the condemnation of death is upon all of us. There is no exception. Even a child is under the condemnation. It's not because of him, it's not because of us, it's because of what Adam did. He introduced that condemnation. But Yahweh wants to resolve the problem, of course, and that's where Yahshua comes in. And that's where he says that also through one righteous act, remember, Yahshua offered himself to protect us from that condemnation. Because if there was not the death, the sacrifice of the Messiah, we'll still be under that condemnation. Hopefully, Yahshua came for us because he loved us so much that he wanted to prevent that condemnation to be upon us. Okay? For as through the disobedience of one man, Adam, okay, many were made sinners, so also through the obedience of the one, many shall be made righteous. By the way, it's shall be made, future tense. As through the disobedience of one man, many were made sinners, so past tense. So since the past, we are under the condemnation of death because of Adam's sin. But in the future, Yahshua will make us righteous. He shall make us righteous. So that's the process he's doing now. Before making people righteous, he first have to save the people. And by the way, that's the name of what Yahshua means, or Yeshua or Yahshua. Yahshua means Yahweh's salvation. That's why his name is so important. Because it means what it means. It means Yahweh's salvation. He shall save his people. Remember, that's what Gabriel says to Miriam. That child shall save his people. Hence the name Yahshua or Yeshua, depending on the long version or the short version. Let's go now to chapter 15 of 1 Corinthians, the book of Corinthians, chapter 15. So until now, it's clear. There is no... So to answer the question, scripturally speaking, yes, since Adam, every child, every grandchild, and every child, generation after generation, even my own child, and his own child will be under the condemnation. That's why we need Yahshua the Messiah. Why? Because through his blood, Yahweh can put an end to that condemnation. But we have to be under the blood of the Messiah. When I say under the blood, that means we are under his sacrifice. So his sacrifice, his death, protect us. See, that's the point here. So when I say under the blood, that doesn't mean we have to have blood on you. It's his blood, his sacrifice, his death, protect us from that condemnation. As long as we stay under that shield, it's like a shield. As long as we stay in the Messiah, we are protected from the condemnation. Take an example. Let's say that you have a house, and then you have the world around you, which is empty. And the world around, okay, there is a lot of rain, or there is radioactivity and things, and the only place you are protected from that radioactivity, virus, and so forth, is in the house. So let's say that the house is Yeshua. As long as you are in the house, you are protected from the elements outside. If you go out of the house, you are not protected anymore. That's the idea. So Yeshua is the sacrifice which protects us from the condemnation which is out in the world. That's why the scriptures ask us to get out of the world, out of the system, not to participate in it anymore. Because as long as we participate in the system, as long as we are in the world, to take the word of the scriptures, we are not under the protection of Yahshua, because there is enmity between Yahshua and the world. Remember, the world is under the influence of the wicked one. So, and there is no friendship between the world and Yahshua. He came to save mankind, But the world itself, the system we live in, is not the system of Yahweh the Father. That system will be replaced. So for the moment, we are all under the condemnation of Adam, and that's why Yahshua is there and protect us from it, as long as we do what He asks us to do, and as long as we stay under Him and or in Him, to use the verse of the Scriptures. Let's go now to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 22 to 26. It says this: For as all die in Adam, so also all shall be made alive in Mashiach. So this is underlining what I have just told you. So in Adam, fleshly Adam, we all die. You cannot escape it. But we shall be made alive in Mashiach. So if we are in Messiah, we shall be made alive. Important. For as all die, present tense, so for the moment is still the case, we all die in Adam. So also all shall be made alive in Mashiach. So we shall be, future tense, is something which will happen. It's not happened yet. It will happen in the future. We shall be made alive in Mashiach. But for the moment, you are flesh and blood. I am flesh and blood. We are all flesh and blood. That's the whole point of 1 Corinthians chapter 15, by the way. Let's continue. And each in his own order. Mashiach, the first fruit. Then those who are of Mashiach at his coming. Stop here. So, there is an order. Mashiach is the first fruit to raise up from the dead. He is the first of the creation, in a sense. Remember, he is an example. He is the firstborn of mankind as someone being completely saved from mankind, etc., etc., etc. So he is the first fruit. Then those who are of Mashiach at his coming. Mashiach is not there yet. He did not come yet since he resurrected. So clearly this has not happened yet. So even the believers today are still under that condemnation. But as long as they stay in the Messiah, they are protected from that condemnation. That's why Yahweh called people to repentance. Why? Because He wants to save the people. Repentance is to call you out from the world outside and to call you in the Messiah, in the house, under the shield, under the shadow of Yahweh, to protect you from that condemnation, because you cannot avoid it. It's there. It's there. But Yahweh can prevent it for you to happen. And when Yahshua comes back, then He will change us like this, like a twinkle of an eye. But He's not there yet. He did not come yet. He is the only one which resurrected from the dead. Okay, let's continue. Then the end, when He delivers up the reign to Yahweh the Father, when He has brought to nothing all rule and all authority and power. Speaking about here about all the evil ones. Refer to Ephesians chapter 6. Speaking about the rule and authority and power. For He has to reign until He has put all enemies under His feet. And now listen. The last enemy to be brought to nothing is death. This is the last enemy. But that enemy is still there. People still die. You can observe that. Maybe members of your family died, like my dad, my own dad, for instance. He died. Which proved that sin is still in the world. The condemnation is still there, because if the condemnation is not there, no one will die anymore. But people still die. Which proved that, sadly for all of us, mankind, the condemnation is still there. We cannot do anything ourselves about it. Only Yahweh can do something about it. That's why Yahshua came. That's the whole part of the plan. To protect the people which accept to put themselves under the protection of Yahweh the Father through Yahshua the Messiah. Well, the last enemy to be brought to nothing is death. But that will happen when the Father Himself comes. Remember, Yahweh the Father created everything. But you know that He never put one foot on this planet? Yet. It was not meant to be so, but it is so. So first, Yahshua have to make a big cleanup before the Father Himself comes down. And when the Father comes down, He will not come down on the same planet as you see today. He will renew everything. He will renew the heavens and the earth. Let's see that in Revelation. Revelation chapter 21, verse 1 to 4. Revelation 21, verse 1 to 4, it says this: And I saw a renewed Shamayim, or heaven, and a renewed earth. For the former heaven and the former earth had passed away, and the sea is no more. But today, as you can see, the sea is still there. If you live in Davao or in the coastline, you know pretty well that the sea is still there. Many people are fishermen here. Okay, but you take the Philippines are still a series of islands in the sea, in the ocean. So the sea is still there. It says here that the sea is no more, but so that's something which will happen in the future. But again, I saw a renewed Shamayim and a renewed earth, something which will come later on. And I, Yochanan, saw the holy city, renewed Jerusalem, coming down out of the heaven from Elohim, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the Shamayim, the heavens, saying, See, the booth of Elohim, or the tabernacle, the residence of Elohim is with men, and he shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Elohim himself shall be with them and be their Elohim. Speaking about the Father himself here. And Elohim, Father, shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, no mourning, nor crying, and there shall be no more pain, for the former have passed away. This is future tense. So first we are now. Yeshua came the first time to offer himself to save the people. Through his blood we have a possibility of protection if we answer the call of Yahweh. Yahweh calls us out. If we answer the call, we can put ourselves under the protection of Yahweh through the blood of the Messiah. Then Messiah will come back. He has to come back, but this time he will not come as the Messiah. This time he will not come as a peaceful man just preaching the good news. No, he will come as the king of that kingdom. And as a king he will be a conqueror. He will put an end to war and things like that. And for 1,000 years, according to Revelation, he will reign with the saints, all of those who today have been called out and have the good fight, like Paul. And with them he will reign for 1,000 years. Those 1,000 years will be there for one purpose: clean up the mess that mankind, Adam, did in the first place. Clean up everything. To submit everything, to crush everything which resists the righteousness of Yahweh. And when everything is done, the Father can come down. So Yeshua will give back to Yahweh the Father himself what is his property, his ownership. Then the Father will come down. But until the Father himself comes down, death will reign. Something we have to pay attention. That means that during the 1,000-year kingdom of Yeshua, death will still be there. Death will disappear finally when the Father himself will come down. That's when death will finish. Why? Because at that moment, there will be no flesh mankind anymore. It's finished. The old things have gone away. But we are not there yet. So until the Father himself comes down, death will reign. The condemnation is still there. And that's why, again, I insist, because it's so important, that's why Yeshua is so important in our life. If we abandon him, we abandon the shield of protection which protects us from wrath. Remember, if you are in the world, you are under the wrath of Yahweh, the Father. We are children of disobedience. We are under the wrath. And it is the same wrath which destroyed the first world in the flood. So he doesn't want that to happen again. Let's go back now to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 45 to 50. And let's see what Paul says about mankind as we are today, and as we will still be, humans, until the Father comes down. And so it has been written, the first man, Adam, became a living being. The last Adam, speaking about the Messiah here, Yeshua, a life-giving ruach, or spirit. So he is a spirit today. He's not a man anymore. Okay, he's not a man, fleshly man. Now he is a spirit. He can give life to people. It's not the case yet. The spiritual, however, was not first, but the natural, and afterward the spiritual. So the spiritual is a second step. The first man was of the earth, earthy. The second man was Adam of the heavens. Okay, so that's the big difference between Adam, human, and the second Adam, Yahshua the Messiah, which come from heaven. As is the earthy, so also are those who are earthy. Speaking about us here. And as is the Shamayim, so also are those who are of the Shamayim. And as we have borne the likeness of the earthy, so we have borne it, that's the case for the moment, we shall, future tense, also bear the likeness of the Shamayim. But it's not the case yet. We are not spiritual beings yet. We are still humans. But we shall bear that likeness. And this I say, brothers, that flesh and blood is unable to inherit the reign of Elohim. Neither does corruption inherit incorruption. So it's impossible in our condition now to inherit the kingdom. Let's continue, verse 51 to 54. See, I speak a secret to you. We shall not all sleep, speaking about death here. We shall, future. But we shall, future, all be changed. That's future tense. In a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. So the dead shall be raised incorruptible. Shall be, they shall be. People which are dead are dead. They are not alive anymore. There is no immortality of the soul. Because if you have immortality of the soul, you don't need resurrection by definition. Resurrection is for those who are dead. And clear here, people are still dead and they are waiting for the resurrection. And that will happen at the last trump. That last trump, no one heard it. Yeshua is not back dead yet. So these are still have to happen. For this corruptible has to put on incorruption, and this mortal to put on immortality. We are mortal. We are not yet immortal. And when this corruptible has put on incorruption, and this mortal has put on immortality, then shall come to be the word that has been written, then and only then, death is swallowed up in overcoming. In other words, death has been overcome. That has not happened yet. So, it was 20 minutes of answer, but I really wanted to answer that person, because I really like the question to begin with, so thank you for asking it. So yes, since Adam, all the children, generation after generation, are under the same condemnation. That's why us, as parents, we have to teach our children to respect the Messiah, to put themselves under the protection of the blood of the Messiah, and to have access to the Father. It is their protection. By doing so, we protect them also. Out of love, we have to teach them Yeshua, the Messiah, how important he is in their life. It will not always be easy. It's you know it pretty well if you obey Yeshua already. That sometimes is difficult even for us as adults. But if we can teach them that it is important for them to live under Yeshua's protection, they will be protected until the end. So, but for the moment, yes, all humankind is under the condemnation of death. That's why we need the protection of Yeshua. Okay? So, Yeshua is needed. And if you read Romans chapter 6, verse 23, it's pretty simple. For the wages of sin is death, but the favorable gift of Elohim is everlasting life in Mashiach Yeshua, our Master, our Adon. So, the wage of sin is death. We are all under the sin. So, death is still there. But the favorable gift, the grace of Elohim, is everlasting life in Mashiach. We must be in Mashiach. If we are not in Him, we cannot be under the gift of Elohim. And that's where it's a good, in a sense, a good introduction to the next step of the plan of salvation. Remember, with Adam we saw the creation and the fall of man. Adam represents that as a role. Noah played the role of the one which represents salvation, the salvation process. Okay, man has been created, man has fallen. Now Yahweh wants to save mankind. He wants to save mankind. He loves mankind. Okay, mankind makes foolish things, stupidity, completely, even wickedness and things like that, but he still wants to save them. So he had to make a plan, which we call a plan of salvation, a plan of Yeshua, okay, which is the name of our Messiah. So Noah represents the salvation process of Yahweh toward mankind and creation, not just mankind, creation also. Well, I still have 5 minutes, so let's introduce what I will speak about next week with Noah. But remember, I told you last week, I will take my time to develop the idea here, to present to you the plan of salvation in the stories of the patriarchs. That's the whole point here. Present to you that Yahweh, in the stories of the patriarchs, hide the process of salvation, in fact. In a sense, in plain sight, it's there. In the story of the patriarchs, they play like a role. Okay, let's say you have Tom Hanks or Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Well, each of those are actors. They play a role. But they don't play themselves, they play a role. Well, the same for the patriarchs. They are playing a role of something. Adam represents mankind in creation and fall. Noah represents salvation. Okay, well, let's go in Genesis 6 to introduce a little bit the topic. Genesis 6, verse 5 to 7. Yahweh says this. And Yahweh saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And Yahweh was sorry that he had made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. And Yahweh said, I am going to wipe off man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping creatures and birds of the Shamayim, for I am sorry that I have made them. That's so bad the condition of the earth was at that time, to the point that Yahweh was grieved against his own creation. He was really sad. But Noah, and this is the whole point, Noah found favor in the eyes of Yahweh. In the King James it says, I think, but Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. It is the first time in the scriptures that the word grace or favor appear. Before that, that word never appeared in the scriptures. So the first time that the notion, the concept of grace appear in the scriptures, it's not in the New Testament. It's in Genesis, the Old Testament. So grace is an Old Testament concept. It's not new. It's not something invented by Paul, neither Yeshua, neither Peter. No, it was something which was already there since Genesis. The first time Yahweh poured His grace to someone is to Noah. Noah found grace in the eyes of Yahweh. So here you see that grace is clearly a concept, a teaching from the Old Testament, the Old Covenant, not from the New one. The New is simply renew, something that Paul simply explained what it is. Okay, let's continue. So grace toward Noah, verse 11 to 14. And the earth was corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence. Don't you think it's the same today? And Elohim looked upon the earth and saw that it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth. And Elohim said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And see, I am going to destroy them from the earth. And now pay attention to what he said to him. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark and cover it inside and outside with tar. Make yourself an ark. Yahweh will not build the ark for Noah. Important. Yahweh will not build the ark for Noah. He gave the order to Noah to build the ark. Why? We'll see that. Let's go first to chapter 7, verse 11 to 16. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, on that day, all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of the Shamayim were opened. And the rain was on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On that same day, Noah and Shem and Ham and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them, went into the ark. They, and every living creature after its kind, and every beast after its kind, and every creeping creature that creeps on the earth after its kind, and every bird after its kind, every bird of every sort. And they went into the ark to Noah, 2 by 2 of all flesh in which is the breath of life. And those going in, male and female of all flesh, went in as Elohim had commanded him, and Yahweh shut him in. So the ark is his protection from what? The flood. So Noah did not save only mankind through him, he also saved the creatures. He also saved animals. We never think about that. He also saved the animals. Now let's go to Hebrew. The book of Hebrew, or Hebrew. Hebrew chapter 11. And pay attention, and that will probably be the last verse I will quote today, but I will continue and develop the topic next week. In Hebrew chapter 11 verse 7, pay attention to what it says. It's, by belief, by faith, Noah, having been warned of what was yet unseen, having feared, prepared an ark. Why did he prepare an ark? To save his house. Yahweh did not save him. He saved himself. How did he do that? By building an ark, by a work, through which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is according to belief. I will develop that next time. But people always use Ephesians chapter 2 to say that, you see, you are saved by grace but not by work. The problem with that is you have to pay attention to the tense of the verb which is used. We have been saved by grace through faith. But in the present, you work your own salvation. You have to work for your salvation. Whatever people think, you are not just saved by grace. You are saved also through the work you are doing. And I will come to that, I will develop, because it's important. You have 3 tense: past, present, and future. The past is where grace comes. Present is where the work comes. And the result will be the reward in the future. I will develop that next time. Okay? So, I hope I give you a little bit of suspense. So next week I will develop a little bit more about Noah, the role he plays. But I introduced today already the verse I used for that. And I will simply show to you, through the example of Noah, that we have to work to our own salvation. By the way, it's even in the scriptures. Okay, if you don't believe me, read Philippians chapter 2, verse 12 to 13. You have to work to your own salvation. So you see that you have to work for it, contrary to what people think. It's in the scriptures. So, just before I finish, I still have 1 minute, I will give you the phone number in which toward which you can send a text message, comments, salutation, whatever, or questions. Don't hesitate. So the number is 0921 7433106. I repeat, 0921 7433106. 092174330106. Okay, so that's the phone number. You can send a text message, a comment, or a question, so don't hesitate. So again, thank you for all of you which are listening to this show. Thank you to Radio Kai and the technician which is behind the window, making sure that you can hear us. Not just me, but also Elder Ibanez, which will follow me. His message is in Visaya, so it will be easier probably for you to understand. So stay tuned for the message of Elder Ibanez. Thank you again for all of those in Tagum, in Malita, Mati, I think some people there were able to listen to me for whatever reason, and other people which are listening to me, thank you very much. So please continue. I hope I'm bringing you some knowledge to help you to develop. I'm just leading you. It's up to you to go deeper, but I'm just there to lead you as a shepherd is supposed to do. Thank you for everything, and in Yeshua's name, I bless you, and have a good week. Until next week, salutation to everyone. Hallelujah.
Thank you, dear friends, for listening to this show. Yahweh bless all of you in Yeshua the Messiah. Until next time, this is Elder Joel Peters. Peace be with you. Shalom.